Hello, everyone. Welcome today. We are here with Shannon Merenstein and Dahlia Rao, and we are talking about play and what it means to play and how you transform learning through play. So these lovely ladies are from Hatch. They are currently working in a program called Partners in Play. And what does it mean to be a partner in schools? A partner to teachers in their work with children and in their own professional growth. A partner to schools in providing excellent, challenging, equitable, and research-informed learning opportunities. And a partner to children in celebrating the gifts that they bring both to the learning environment and to other people who are part of their learning lives, such as peers, teachers, parents. Hatch, Partners in Play, centers the role of play in taking on each of these types of partnerships, capitalizing on the ways that play supports learning, teachers, educational equity, and children themselves. Within this approach, play is not a special opportunity reserved as a reward or as an add-on. Rather, play helps schools to reach existing goals for students and educators more fully and in new ways. We are very excited to hear all about this, and I hand it over to Shannon and Dahlia.
All right, thank you so much, Sarah, and thanks to the consortium for having us today and giving us this opportunity to share more about our work within Pittsburgh Public Schools and within schools in the surrounding area. Oops. So I'm just going to share a little bit about our agenda for today. We are going to share a little bit about our story, our background, and the transformation of our own work from an out-of-school experience to one that is deeply focused on equity and embedded within the school day. We'll share more about our core beliefs as an organization and the principles and practices that drive our programming. We'll share about the learning processes that are embedded within our Playlab experience, and then we'll really focus on deepening understanding of agency and whole child development within play-based learning. We have lots of images to share as well from our work with children at Pittsburgh Faison and Pittsburgh Arsenal, which are two Pittsburgh public schools. Our work focuses on materials exploration, art integration, and play in all forms. We began our work as an out-of-school studio experience, facilitating open-ended art and play classes and workshops and open studio experiences for children as young as 9 months old and their caregivers, with a focus on early childhood from infancy through age 8. And in 2021, we were awarded a Remake Learning Moonshot grant, where we had the opportunity to pilot a embedded play-based experience within a Pittsburgh public school. And we partnered with 3 kindergarten and first grade educators at Faison to imagine what this play-based experience would look like. The educators that are our partners have really become co-creators of the work, developing practices that are relevant and responsive to the strengths and needs of each of the students that we work with. And we've been able to expand this program to a second Pittsburgh public school in the previous year via funding from the Grable Foundation, the Pittsburgh Foundation, and a second Remake Learning Moonshot grant.
So on this part of the presentation, I just want to give a brief overview of the mission and underlying beliefs of our organization and what fuels us beginning and throughout the work. Play we see as a right of childhood. It should be made accessible to every child, which is what preempted the shift into the public school space, not only for the most privileged. And so the most accessible is within a public school, in a community-based public school. Being seen and known is a right of childhood. Through play, children's ideas, interests, and life experiences are shared and celebrated with each other and their teachers. We hear over and over again from our partner teachers that once they adopted the Playlab practices, they felt a deeper connection and understanding of who their students were. And this served them not just within the time of play, but also throughout the rest of the school day. We co-imagine and co-create with partner educators and children, like Shannon just mentioned, to ensure that the experiences are relevant and responsive. Each classroom is different, each school culture is different, and really continuously checking the work to make sure that it is responsive to the children's needs and interests. In Playlab, children are able to explore and discover what brings them joy, at times as an individual and at other times with their peers. So usually we provide a variety of invitations that can encourage working together, but we never sort of force children to engage in an activity that doesn't serve them that day. Playlab is never used as a reward or withheld as a consequence. And this is something that we set out right away with our partner teachers, depending on what the school culture is around sort of, you know, if they've had a rough day, what happens? We always say they need it more if they've had a hard day, and make sure that everyone is given the chance to engage, and that it's protected by their teachers and by us. And most importantly is that play is the vehicle for all of learning, and that it brings to the surface every aspect of a child, including their academic knowledge, their relationships and interactions, their emotional selves, their physical selves, and their creative selves. And it's the vehicle that we use to do all the work. I'm going to share a quote from Carla Shalaby, who wrote a book called Troublemakers and currently works out of the University of Michigan. It's something that the book itself is something we've shared with each of our partner teachers to frame the partnership and to frame the work. I'll read it and just give everyone a second to read it themselves too. These children are saying, we are here now to be seen for the people they already are, already full human beings, exactly as human as their teachers, no more and no less. They have things to learn as citizens and scholars and as family members, and they will grow and change and develop and learn. But they are already full human beings, and none of these lessons will make them more so. They already feel and love and hurt. They already insist on being taken seriously and cared for deeply. They will not be ignored, and they will not be invisible. When we started the work after the pandemic, this was sort of the invite in for teachers, saying that they could get to know the children, they could serve the children best by meeting them exactly where they were.
And we'll be working with Carla Shalaby this summer to introduce our Playlab framework to a public school in Detroit that she is currently collaborating with. So that's another sort of lighthouse in our map of Playlab schools.
Here's a picture of a child in our play studio at Pittsburgh Faison, as just a transition to the next stage. I'm going to give a brief overview of the Playlab practices. And then we'll go deeper into them throughout the presentation. Every Playlab begins with an opening meeting that's either led by Shannon, myself, or the teacher. And over the course of the year, the teachers definitely take the driver's seat in those opening meetings to make them their own door into the play. The second thing we're going to discuss is the Playlab educator mindset, which we've talked a little bit about already, but we'll go deeper into. Play journals, which are a chance for child's reflections after each Playlab. Collaborative review of play footage, which we facilitate with teachers at various points after and during play labs. and play stories. And we have split this up into two different kinds, one that is created by educators and Shannon and myself, and another one that is more child voice prompted by images of them at play.
And before we share more about opening meeting, just want to share a little bit about what Playlab is and what it could look like within a public school day. So when we approached the original founding partners to collaborate, we asked the educators what time and space might be available for this extended period of open-ended play. And the teachers that we were working with already had a mindset around the importance of play and a willingness to be able to think about the schedule flexibly and more fluidly, and had sort of the permission of their principal to explore this idea. We originally proposed 1.5 hours to 3 hours of play a day, and we were able to compromise and kind of get to that 1.5 hours of protected play within the school day. And what that required of the teachers is to be able to look at Playlab as a time and space for social emotional development, for math learning, for literacy, for science and engineering, for those skills that they would be acquiring at other points of the day to be practiced authentically and to be explored more deeply. And that is the question that we've received the most is how do you make time and space for this kind of extended period of play? So I just want to preface these practices with saying what is required is a shift in mindset about what play can be and what it can become within the context of a school day. And so each play lab, whether it's facilitated in the classroom by one of our partner educators, and we now have 9 partner educators who have gone through the experience of learning about Playlab and implementing it within their classrooms, whether it's happening in their classroom or whether it's happening at our play studio at Faison, the Playlab begins with an opening meeting. And the opening meeting is a time for the classroom community to come together and to practice sort of a mindfulness and presence in the space, to look around the room and notice what things are the same, what things are different. And that just gives children an opportunity to begin to think about their plans for the play that day, and to notice what offerings might be available, or to feel comfort in seeing the familiar materials that they are ready to engage with and play with. And sometimes we integrate thinking routines like See, Think, Wonder into this practice to allow children to more deeply observe and describe and get curious about the materials that they're about to engage with. Each of our partner teachers has really taken on a leadership role in creating play labs that are relevant and responsive to their students. And one of our partner teachers has been really interested in investigating the connection between African principles and community building and this time and space that we've created called Playlab to really honor that community time together and to focus on the social and emotional skills that are required to be in community with others. And so he and his students created this, in the picture you see here, created this sort of set of principles or norms that begin his play lab meetings. And we have used those to help children kind of situate themselves in the community context and think about ways that they will practice inviting each other into the play, or teaching each other or building each other up. And the children really enjoy and have become really great at being able to share specific examples of how they've done that, whether or how they're planning to do it or how they've done it in the play lab experience. And as I was mentioning before, what is required of each educator that practices Playlab with us and with their students is a shift in mindset around what play can do for children, what it can do for the classroom community, what play can look like in an academic and social and emotional development context. And I'll just read this quote that I think that really kind of captures that. Participating in the context of play reminds teachers that children are not blank slates waiting to be filled with information. Rather, they are resourceful learners full of prior knowledge and experiences from their homes, communities, and other contexts that can be leveraged in early childhood settings and in early primary settings as well. When educators engage in play, they are reminded of what play looks like, sounds like, and feels like. They gain greater insight into the cognitive complexities that young children acquire as they immerse themselves in play.
I have something just to add to this slide, Shannon. A lot of the conversations that we had with our partner educators at the beginning of this experience was questioning what their role was when the children play, because they were already giving them some time, some free time during their days, and they wanted to understand how this was different. And over the course of that first year with those teachers, they really did develop a style of engagement with the children during Playlab that shifted from sort of only stopping things when they went too far in their minds or touching up to their edges to really facilitating, supporting, scaffolding, asking questions, and stepping back when needed. So and documenting and observing the play. So it's really a conversation with each teacher that develops over the course of the Playlab development.
And each of the teachers has described this kind of coming to know each individual child through the play, learning more about what they're bringing from home, what skills and strengths they bring to the classroom community, what interests them, what excites them, what opportunities there are to scaffold and challenge their ideas and interests within the play as well. And here's an image of one of our partner teachers looking at a plan that a child has made during an outside play lab. We always provide materials for writing and drawing and connecting those skills to the play experience and being able to plan ahead or share ideas, and an opportunity for a child to share with their teacher their vision for the experience.
So here we're going to discuss the next component, which is play journals. At the beginning of each school year, each child is gifted a blank 8.5 by 11 journal. And then we add a picture of them at play on the front with their name on it. And these journals are given to them after Playlab experiences and are supported by teachers and us. And they're given about 10, 15 minutes to reflect back on what was important to them about their play. So this, at the beginning in a kindergarten classroom, it looks quite different than in a first or second grade classroom. And it is scaffolded again by the teachers, sometimes around specific questions, but it is really a chance for children to have some metacognition around their own play and even further that social connections with their friends. Here you see two classmates who shared a play experience outside and then came back with the support of their teachers to write each other's names in their journals.
So play journals are an opportunity for children to share their story, the story of their play experience. So just to orient to the sort of timeline. So we've had the opening meeting. The children have had an extended period of time where they've been able to move around the classroom space, combine materials, work in the areas that they would like to work in for as long or as little as they like, and with friends or independently. And once they kind of come back to center and are presented with a sort of ritual of writing and drawing in their journal after, it's an opportunity for children to have an authentic writing experience that is unique to their play lab. And this, we'll just share a little bit about this particular play journal example. This was in one of our kindergarten partner teachers' classrooms. And during the opening meeting, the children were noticing that there were some ants crawling in to the carpet area from sort of like under the rug. And instead of redirecting the children, the teacher really engaged the children in the sort of act of being curious and wondering about the ants, and had tools on hand to kind of help them investigate further. She's a teacher who naturally integrates sort of scientific thinking and inquiry into her classroom experience. And so these children were very familiar with the idea of becoming curious about something and incorporating it into their play and having this extended period of time to really investigate further. One of the children on the left, Jacori, became really sort of attached to the idea of this living thing being in the classroom, and was really just tenderly taking care of it and just sort of gently carrying it around and showing his friends. There were some children who were really interested in using real tools like magnifying glasses to investigate the ants further and be able to look more closely. And then the children decided that they wanted to create a trap, or like a sort of home. We're not sure if it was a trap or habitat. I'm calling it a habitat for the ants. And they had access to, a variety of just like recyclable materials that are always available during their play lab experience to use to build that. And this was a completely child-led, inquiry-based experience that culminated in this collaborative creation of the ant habitat with recyclable materials. And you can see on the left is our documentation, the photos that we were taking during this play experience, as taking on this observer role and documentarian role as an educator. And on the right, you can see, sorry about that. Go back. There we go. On the right, you can see the child's interpretation of this experience. And in kindergarten, especially at the beginning of the year, we always give children the opportunity to dictate their story to us. So children can begin with drawing. They can label if they feel comfortable doing that, or just looking at beginning letter sounds, or stretching out words as they become familiar with word building. But the child also has the opportunity to share their story and have it recorded by one of the educators during a conferencing time during journaling. And you can see that this child has labeled her name Jemiah and her friend Jacori. And it says here that this little ant is sad because no one was playing with him. And she got up and she showed Jacori and she was so happy. And Jacori was surprised and he said, whoa, whoa, whoa. And I think she was describing the ant trap when she said the ant said go that way and I said stop, 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 and she helped to write the end. So this is a developed story that a kindergarten student was able to tell, and there are so many literacy skills at play here, as well as the collaborative and sort of social aspect of the storytelling.
Okay. So here we can see pretty clearly on the right-hand examples of the longitudinal development of one child over time, over the course of this school year. So the left top one just shows the beginning of a human form of themselves and dictating their story to their teacher, and just sort of a fine motor development. In the second one, he's really worked on himself as the center of the story and is is playing with some letter forms, and they even look sort of excited. They sort of convey an excitement around the play. And then this third one was after an outdoor play lab, and you can see that he's beginning and end sounds of words and drawing friends in this really amazing wood block experience where we made an obstacle course outside. So this is the most sort of prevalent benefit of having these very dedicated play journals, as opposed to just an occasional opportunity to draw about their play. And at the end of the year, we scan all these journals and really go through them to understand what was learned and focused on by the children during their play. And in this next slide, we can see that sometimes the same experience can be reflected upon by multiple children and give us a much deeper understanding of what was important to those children around a shared experience. So this is that same day. We've also found that the journals, when they happen after an outdoor play lab, are usually a lot more detailed and rich than the ones that we do either in their regular classrooms or even in the play studio. And I think it's because we live in Pittsburgh and the weather is so fickle that those outdoor play labs are rarer, even though they do happen. And they definitely have a visceral effect to being outside with each other. So here we saw the top left one in the last slide, but in the top right one, we can see it was a beautiful sunny day, and the child was very focused on how beautiful it was. You can see, and there's even expressions on the faces of his friends. And on the bottom one, I can read it because it's a little bit tricky to see, but it says, I helped design the obstacle course. I can't see the name there. Okay. Thought of the idea and I quit, and then I came back and I did another part of it. It was fun. It was a long jump and a quick part, and it was hard. So we see his focus on the movement and the challenge of the obstacle course. So as a teacher looking at that experience, our partner was actually not even in that area of the squishy space, we call it. And so for her to sort of learn from her children after what they had experienced and what they were focused on is really powerful.
And I think that's the power of an open-ended play experience. When these materials are offered to the students, they each can take from the experience what they need and what they want. And you can, as Dahlia was saying, there are social components to the play experience that children are focusing on, or just the joy of being outside and with friends, or the thinking and sort of design of the play experience itself. Mm-hmm. And we've noticed too that in these journal experiences, the children are deeply engaged and invested in telling this story. There are very few parameters placed on the experience itself, so it becomes a more equitable writing and drawing experience. It's not assessed by the educators, but instead it's an opportunity to kind of gain insight into the child's learning experience in the play.
And I think it's also an opportunity for the children to have an additional experience with their teacher. So we make the rounds around the classroom, the teacher makes the rounds around the classroom, and it really is an opportunity for relationship building between the two, which is at core of Partners in Play. Here we have a variety of play journal entries, and these were from our first year of work and really show the scope of themes in play journals, because they are open-ended and the children are definitely given agency in what they focus on. We notice themes of, here on the left, the image of the child at the center. It's their story. They're given a chance to say what was important to them. So you see a lot of letters and literacy and all the other stuff, but the image of the child as the agent of the play. In the center, we see two different play journals that focus on academic areas of math and building and and geometry from a little girl named Destiny, who was really working on towers the entire year. And then at the bottom was after a walk, and one child really focused on all her senses and how she experienced that play throughout her body, and describing that so eloquently. And then on the right-hand side was the relationships, the social emotional development between the children and each other. And you can see two children extending that into even the play journaling experience, supporting each other with the words that they knew. And a lot of our partner teachers have adopted the practice of having the names of the children printed on cards and laminated that they can access during play journaling, so that they don't even have to ask the other child, how do you spell your name, over and over again, because we found that so often they just wanted to write about their friends and the relationships that they had.
And these blank sheets of paper in the journals are really an act of trust and a belief that children are capable. There are so many writing experiences that children have throughout the day where they learn very quickly whether their response is correct or incorrect, or whether it needs improvement in some way. And this is a safe space for children to really test out their ideas, share what's important to them, and express it in a format that makes sense for them. There have been children at the beginning of the year, as when Dahlia was talking earlier about the sort of longitudinal development of writing and drawing over time. There have been children who have just been focused on the sort of like joy of mark making, or making repetitive shapes, or sort of other just experimentations with marks. And over time, the teachers really trust that, and may ask the child to share more about their experience if they want to and feel comfortable doing so. But also, it's an opportunity just to get pen to paper in this joyful and sort of trusting way that is different than writing experiences that happen throughout the rest of the school day. So while children have an opportunity to reflect on the play experience via the play journals, educators also have an opportunity to reflect on the play experience and work to better understand themes that are emerging in the classroom through the play, relationships that are being built, new skills that are being developed and cultivated through materials exploration in the play. And by looking at the documentation that we all collect together, whether it's photos or videos, we can come to better understand the children's experience, interpret it, and then become responsive in future play labs. So if we notice there's a lot of energy around a particular material, we can work to support that by extending that area in the classroom, or bringing in new materials that can be incorporated with the ones that are really highly engaging. Or we can look at relationships that are being developed, or themes that are coming from home, things that children are thinking about and considering, and that are really called to the surface in their play experience. And we, like I said, we do that by looking at the footage that we collect as documentarians during the play experiences. And when we're looking at those play experiences, when we're looking at the videos or photos, and this happens formally and informally, but most especially informally, when there's just a few minutes to just sort of download and reflect on the experience, we like to frame that sort of looking and reflecting within the domains of development, so that teachers can really kind of focus on the social and emotional development that they're noticing. So when they're seeing children understand another child's perspective, or respecting boundaries, or regulating during a busy play experience, they're looking at the cognitive development of children. So they're noticing when children are problem solving, when they're thinking about their learning, when they're wondering and they're asking questions. They're looking at the physical development of children, the fine and gross motor skills that are so essential for children to be successful academically, and the language development of children. So as children are sharing stories from home, as they're acting out experiences in dramatic play, as they're expressing themselves with art materials and with other loose parts that are available, they're developing vocabulary. And then, of course, we're looking at the ways that children are innovating and generating new ideas and iterating on their experiences and developing as creators. And when we're framing these play experiences for others, whether we're building sort of a will around the work in a school community, or we're sharing with stakeholders that may still see play as a sort of luxury or as an add-on to the day, we focus our framing of the documentation that we've created around the academic and social emotional skill building that happens during the day. And we've collected a body of research via our research partners around the academic and social emotional benefits to children that happen during play, and that can really be cultivated in these experiences.
So here is an example of the first category of play stories that we create, which, as Shannon was saying, serve as a form of advocacy to school stakeholders, administrators, and people who are not directly in the play labs. This play story was developed from that footage of myself and Mr. Morris comparing and sharing footage from this outdoor play lab. And as you can see, the focus is on a child sort of setting challenges for herself in the play and iterating on ideas and taking things further with her friends. And that came out of a conversation around what we were both observing from Symphony during the play. And this is just one example. We've created over 200 play stories that we hang throughout the schools that we work with. And over the course of the year, we make sure to try and make a play story about each child that has been in Play Lab. And really, at the beginning, it's of a partnership with a teacher. It's a way for us to communicate really clearly that the teachers are not being assessed in this partnership, and that it's a way to highlight the various kinds of growth a child can experience in the play, and are always completely strength-based analysis of what we're observing. And we have heard back from our partner teachers that these have been really pivotal in understanding and engaging and committing to the work, because they see their children in new ways, and they understand their role as a teacher in Play Lab in new ways. And I think all of our partner educators are learners as well. And this is a way to maintain that stance as a teacher in Play Lab. The one on the left is definitely focused on a relationship building at the beginning of the year, and includes the play journal that was written afterwards. So sometimes we include the play journals, sometimes they're more image-based, sometimes they're more direct quotes from children about their own play, and sometimes they're just higher sort of level explanation of why certain materials are chosen or how we do things in Play Lab. Here's a picture of our partner educator, again, sort of embodying that stance that we've discussed, enjoying the play with their children, dialoguing with them, and sort of observing what's happening, where it's going to go.
This year, we've been experimenting with incorporating play stories that are from the child's perspective, and an opportunity to make public what's important to that particular child about the play experience. So it's a little bit different than the play journals, which are intended to be a more private, reflective space for the children to kind of work out ideas and share their story, to document their story over time, and perhaps share with their educator as they're telling these stories. These play stories are presented to the school community in the hallways and act as another advocacy piece to share with visitors and other members of the school community what's important to the children about the play experiences. And it's another authentic writing opportunity for children to practice those skills of being able to express what they're seeing, what they're noticing, express what is exciting to them about the play. And you can see here that the child has spent time working on the writing component of it, and also the educator has added a caption at the bottom. And these play stories are more collaborative with the children, and also sort of a lighter lift for the educators as well, to be able to share these images publicly and within the school, and the child from the child's perspective is a sort of natural way to integrate those skills. And here are just a few more examples of the play stories. And you can see that they're each focused on sort of different themes that are coming up. So the one on the right, Symphony, was playing in the sort of kitchen space using loose parts. And she was thinking about her grandma's famous recipe. So she's bringing experiences from home and from her family into her school community. And then in the middle, Sincere was acting like she broke her leg. So talking about using the loose parts and other materials that were outside to become something else, and kind of talking about the sort of imaginative experience that came from that. And then the one on the left, Freedom and Bruce were playing together, and Freedom focused on the sort of relationship that he and Bruce were on the buckets, and then they ran. And so just telling the story of what was happening with his friend and what was most important about that experience.
I think something about this practice that's important to mention is that when we began at both of our partner schools, the halls were filled with assessed, completed products, child products. And so that conversation with teachers at the beginning of the year, and this shift towards images of children, a variety of different responses, a much more open-ended approach has been adopted in both of the schools that we've worked in, and really aligns with the program's mission of responding to a whole child and really putting who they are at the front and the most important part of the work.
And this really requires the teaching expertise of the educators as well, to be able to know what skills are being developed, what objectives are being met through this open-ended experience. And it doesn't have to be an either or. And so it's an opportunity for teachers to still cultivate those same skills that they're required to teach children and for children to practice, while also giving children agency in the ways that they approach that prompt. Oops. This is just another example of documentation that in one of our partner schools that the educators have created. And it's framed around this idea of really seeing the children and knowing that, coming to know them through their play. That was a theme that one of our partner educators, Mr. Morris, was really exploring through the lens of African principles that we mentioned earlier. And for the children to just be able to see themselves in the school environment, it has become a really important practice in our work and in our partnership with teachers. And children are often stopping by this area or other areas where there are images of their friends or themselves, and noticing and remembering what was happening at that time. And it really does represent a shift, as Dahlia was saying, from the sort of product-focused work to a child-focused environment in the school.
So here we're just going to wrap up a little bit and sort of shift the thinking to you guys and pulling meaning from what we've shared about what resonates with you in your own settings. So the first question we'd like you to think about is what's resonated with you today? What did you feel the most connected to in your own work? We know that there are a variety of people who are going to be listening to this, whether you're a teacher or in an out-of-school context or an administrator, and how can you bring some of that ideas around agency and play-based learning into your setting? The second one is, how do these practices extend your thinking about the potential of play in a classroom setting, and sort of assessing where you are along that trajectory right now and where you would like to go. And then what challenges or questions do you think about and have about this work when you're bringing it back to your teaching practice?
And we'll just share a little bit about our plans for the coming school year and beyond. We are in the process of thinking about now with our core partner educators, what these practices might look like, these principles and practices might look like beyond the Playlab space. So now that this group of educators has had a year or 2 years to really think about what this protected period of open-ended play might look like in their classrooms, they're now beginning to wonder what play-based practice might look like in a math setting or in literacy or throughout the rest of the day. So really thinking about how children might have more agency within the academic blocks of the day, how educators might infuse more joy, more exploration, more opportunities for becoming curious and wondering. That's what we'll be working on this fall with our partner educators, really experimenting with what those practices might look like outside of Playlab, while still maintaining the Playlab experience daily. And then in the spring, we're going to be focusing with those educators on presenting a workshop series to interested educators and administrators around some of those practices. So what does it mean to build community through play? What does it mean to approach math and literacy with a playful lens? What does it mean to incorporate materials exploration and making into the context of the school day? And those workshops, we hope, will invite a larger cohort of educators and administrators who are interested in becoming play champions with us, invite them into this set of practices, deepen their understanding of these practices, and prepare them for taking on the Playlab framework in their own context, in the context of their own classrooms and schools. Meanwhile, we'll be deepening our research with partners from the University of Pittsburgh and outside of that, to really understand what benefits these practices have on the academic and social emotional development of children in public schools. And then we're hopeful that in the next 2 years, this will culminate in a much larger conference where we can share the work that's being done and share these practices as they are adopted and adapted by educators across the region. And we thank you so much for joining us, and we are so grateful to the consortium for hosting us today and allowing us to share some of this work. And we would invite you to visit our website or connect with us via email to learn more about the Playlab framework and to learn more about how your school can become a Playlab school. Thank you.